Hi there, it's Jonathan Herbst again, founder and CEO of ScaleUp GROWTH Partners. Welcome to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their company. Today, I'm speaking to Saar Markovitch, who's the owner of the Boxing Academy in Bondi. Is that right, Saar?
Bondi Junction, Sydney.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and so listen, tell me a bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it, and tell me the story.
All right. So I moved to Australia about 7 years ago after being an officer in the Israeli Air Force. I was originally sponsored to Australia to teach Krav Maga, to be the head for this Krav Maga organization that was already located here in Sydney and run by an Israeli as well. After a few years in the business dispute with him, I parted on my own way and ended up opening a business called X Fighting together with two partners, which was a predominantly Krav Maga gym. Our goal was to bring Krav Maga to the eastern suburbs of Sydney. Krav Maga is an Israeli self-defense system. It's, in my eyes, probably the most efficient tool for the everyday Joe to kind of equip themselves with practical tools in quick manner and relatively fitting for the modern day, where the average person can train every day, all day to protect themselves, but 2-3 times a week. And after about 2 years of running and going through twice 2 lockdowns with COVID, we saw that we're having issues with attracting people into the business, mostly because we were kind of a niche within a niche, There's fitness and then martial arts and combat sports and in itself defense and niche. And we found it hard to convey our message and attract people to it. And the image that Krav Maga has to the people that know it is quite a violent one, an aggressive sport, despite that not being what we taught. And we saw that a lot of our students actually loved more the boxing component that we had in the gym. And we ourselves loved doing boxing as well. I believe it's an amazing sport and fitness tool. So we rebranded this year into the Boxing Academy, where we're focusing more on boxing as a fitness tool, as a way to lose weight, belong to a community, get a bit stronger, and also develop skills and a mindset that's very important for us in the day-to-day. And that's where we are now. We have the Boxing Academy running with two partners, Tal and Jubril, and we're hopefully going to keep growing, but it's not always easy.
No, I think anybody watching this would want to understand that. So tell me, who is your core customer? Who's your best customer?
I think my best customer would be anyone aged 25 to 35 who's looking to lose weight, get fit, and has inside him this calling to be part of something, a community. I say that we are always, when I tell people, we are a boxing gym to the average Joe. We're not there for the person that wants to become a world champion. I don't think that my community and the people we have here are the ones that can fuel that in people becoming world champions. We can't give you what you need, but we are here for those that want to have fun, learn a new skill, get better, belong, and at the same time, not necessarily get punched in the face too often and too much. And if they do, then in a fun, nice manner. So I think the most important trait in a customer for me is the ability to commit. Which I find is quite hard for a lot of locals in Sydney. In some way, I sometimes laugh that Australians don't like to commit. I come from a culture where, because we do the army as a mandatory service in Israel, we all understand the value of commitment. So when someone tells you, want a skill, you have to invest here into learning it, fair enough. Here, people are very I just want to try, very afraid of putting themselves into the water. Okay.
That's an interesting insight. And, it's interesting to talk about not wanting to get punched in the face. One of the things I talk about to my clients about, it's great for, and we need to do the strategic planning, but, and I suppose there's a bit of my military background many years ago, but, as you know, a plan is only as good until you get smacked in the face, as Joe Tyson would say.
Yeah, Tyson's famous saying.
Yeah. So listen, you've been through a particularly rough time during COVID. I mean, your gyms got closed down multiple times. My trainer and I ended up in parks for multiple months at a time. What actions did you take during COVID that have stayed with the business going forward?
So we did our best to transition online. That is, we ran online classes. But to tell you the truth, despite me learning a lot about the value of online and how much a person can actually grow and learn fighting online, which eventually led to where I'm at now. I'm actually developing this new personal brand of coaching that works on, let's say, mindset coaching and boxing together online. So because I saw the efficacy of doing it. But for the business, it definitely didn't work that well. I think part of the reason that our clients came to us is for the community, for that sense of stepping into some boxing gym, into a different space and environment. And that died with the transition to online. And we weren't able to pivot enough into the correct market in the short time that we had. We had 2-3 months at the time. So our business kind of, I laugh about it. I say died with each lockdown. We completely died. We lost maybe 80 to 90% of our clients each time. And then as we started growing and recovering, we got hit again. So I wouldn't call ourselves a business that successfully pivoted online. We just survived in how I would define it.
Survival is not a bad thing given what you've been through.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So what does the future look like now? And what do you see as the main challenges you have moving forward?
What happened in this new modern age, the post-COVID age for us, is we emerge into a very hard world for the fitness industry and for brick and mortar businesses. I feel that through the lockdown, many people first started training alone at home, second found training partners for outdoor training, and third even lost the passion for training. And even those that have now probably have a little bit less finances, are more aware of their expenditure, and again are more afraid of commitment. At the same time, for some reason I can't understand, the amount of brick and mortar gyms that opened up and are competing in my environment have almost doubled in the past year and a half. So I don't understand why, because the market is so tough, but more competition and at the same time less clients is what we find, and more resistances from the clients. So we are now dealing with an interesting time for the business that we're trying to crack. How do we keep doing what we do, which is empower people, give them a life-changing experience around their health and fitness and a positive environment, because it's quite hard for us. We have a major issue around intake of new clients, and it's hitting everyone around us, we feel. Yeah. It's a really interesting dilemma for bricks and mortar businesses everywhere, but how do you expand? When you're in one location, how do you expand and reach a broader network? The course you were putting together could very well be it. Yeah. I think is more for individuals. My goal is to work one-on-one more with people. In some ways, it's separate from the boxing academy. And it's just some one little brand that I'm trying to do because I want to have more impact on singular people's lives. Yep. But yeah, in some way, maybe that's what the gym itself needs to do. Move into a more, let's say, boutique direction of working with smaller groups, have more value given at the higher ticket price, instead of trying to basically reach as many people as we can.
It's interesting. A gentleman I interviewed not long ago, if you look up the interview, Dean Dewhurst, and his company is Golf Space, as in golf, playing golf space. Go and have a look at Golf Space and see what they're doing. They've got some really interesting ideas on a membership model and bringing groups together both groups of friends and corporate groups together for a golf experience indoor. So there's some lessons he's doing that could very well relate to your business.
Golf space. I'll write it down.
Golf space, and his name is Dean Dewhurst, and I interviewed him at about call it episode 20, mid-20s somewhere. And then you can find it on the YouTube channel. So listen, Joey, what's your biggest learning that you've had since becoming a business owner? Since you became a business owner?
Well, I think for me, the biggest learning is a little bit like you said, that reading and learning is beautiful, it's smart, but we can sometimes get so stuck in the hope of learning more, reading more, that we forget to do. I find that these days, one of the biggest things I understood is life rewards action. Sometimes you got to abandon all these books, all of these readings, and just start doing. Yeah. And I feel that's what the biggest lesson for me are, the biggest progression and biggest meaning that I find to my day to day. Because, as a business owner that has a business that's a lot of it is around me as a head coach as well, there is a huge mental impact of the business not succeeding. Yeah. And there's anxiety and depression and sadness and pain in it. And the minute we start moving, a lot of that is elevated because at least we're moving somewhere. So I find that today, more than you need to learn, it's you need to start doing. And I think one of the biggest lesson I had from all of these learnings is instead of trying to figure out how to make the business better, how to market, I need to understand how can I make the business better? How can I market? Which are two different things I find. Yeah. Because we modify it for ourselves. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. And it's to an element you're right, but not totally. I would argue that it's the question is who, not I. So depending on what your aspirations for the business is, find the right who's to help you do it. In other words, if you try and do it all yourself, you'll never actually achieve your goal. So the concept of who, not how, put the right who's, and they don't need to be, I'm not talking about necessarily taking on full-time staff. Coaches, consultants, mentors, virtual mentors, people that you listen to. I read talking about virtual mentors. One of my virtual mentors is a guy called Simon Reynolds. Mm-hmm. And Simon was a great is a great marketer. I actually went to school with him. He put a blog out yesterday, which was fabulous. And it was he was talking about one of the great entrepreneurs. This thing was how a dead billionaire can improve your business. And he was talking about Dieter, I'm going to get his name wrong, Mateschitz, who was the founder of Red Bull. Mm-hmm. And what Simon was saying in the blog was, one of the really interesting things about this billionaire was he didn't invent Red Bull. He found it and then took the idea and ran with it. So Red Bull was an energy drink out of Thailand, the truck drivers use in Thailand. And Dieter discovered it. He reached out to the Thai businessmen who owned the company, and they created a version of Red Bull of that product, and it was called Krathin Deng, which in English is Red Bull. So essentially, he found an idea and took it and ran. And the point that I talk a lot to my clients about a thing called R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Yeah.
I'll always give accreditation to where I get ideas from, as I just did with Simon. But the point being, you don't have to come up with every idea yourself. Yeah. People have done it, like F45. Okay, it's probably not the business model, the way they've grown and then crashed recently. It would seem a lot to do with the money they paid in celebrity endorsements. You can learn from that. You can learn from other models, could be boutique models, that you can do some R&D on. So don't think you have to do it all yourself.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah. I'm aware. Yeah.
Okay. So when you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind and why?
Well, I would say my business partner, who is also the active investor of the business and part of the reason we are able to stay afloat. He is what I would define successful. He is financially free. That is, he can do as he pleases. He has a lot of multiple businesses, so he's quite safe. That is, if one business goes down, he has multiple avenues of income. And he is, in my view, a master of his own time. That is, he has control over his own time, which I find is what I would define as successful. So he is a great image of that person. And at the same time, he is also a positive, successful person. That is, he's a person that invests time in others and puts a lot of his success to help others. So, which is my view of success. Yeah.
Very good definition. You need to make sure he listens to this video.
I'll do my best.
Freedom of time is one of the three great freedoms entrepreneurs really. To me, that's what I aspire to in my business. Being an entrepreneur is freedom of time. Freedom of time to make memories with my young children, as an example.
Yeah.
Are you a reader? Do you have any business books, podcasts, leadership biographies you might recommend?
I used to be a reader, but again, I feel like these days I'm more busy with consuming practical things. That is a little bit of videos and more podcasts on the way. I don't think I have any business inspirational books. I've read a little bit of everything, but none that I can say, wow, that changed how I act. The biggest learnings I had around business were from the people I was working with. One of them, again, is my business partner here, Tal Silberman. The other was Peter Kalithrakas, who runs a company named IBS International here. And he's a good friend. And it's a multi-million-dollar company as well. And one of the biggest lessons I learned from him, for example, was cultivate a good team around you. As the success of the business is, like you said, the people that are around. And he said, invest in those people. You find a good person, you reward them, you invest them, and you help them grow. So for me, most of my learnings these days have come from people, face-to-face relations.
And that was great advice. So tell me, last question. Any last piece of advice or parting words for aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think before anyone steps into the world of entrepreneurship, they need to check themselves if they have the, let's say, emotional capacity to do it. It's not an easy journey, and you need to be ready for it. I stepped into it a little bit out of necessity, because I had the whole business dispute with my ex-partner, and I wasn't ready for it, and I wasn't ready for the emotional turmoil that comes with it. So be ready, have set up pathways for you to deal with those things, have support, have good friends around you. And those things are so important, and no one talks about them for entrepreneurship. Everyone talks about the business part, but what about your life around it that supports it and feeds into it? And so I think make sure that you know what you're stepping into, and then step into it with bravery. And again, life rewards action. When you are in it, just move on, keep moving. Don't get stagnant, don't get stuck. Move, look, move, action. Those are the things that really keep my life very positive and fulfilling.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Thanks so much for joining me on Stories of Scaling Up.
Pleasure all mine.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed our conversation there. And like all of these conversations I have, there's always some snippets in there that, are phenomenal learning. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I also steal a little bit things. I'll go look at golf space and and learn.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you.